And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back yet again to another wonderful day of Proving Grounds. I will be your play-by-play caster for the evening, Ravish, the most ravishing man on the internet. Joined here by my side by the illustrious Rebel Fox. How you doing today, Dean?
I'm doing great, Ravish. I think I got that moniker as close as I could, as much as possible. I get to hear you do it all the time, so maybe I've finally been able to pick up a thing or two about the swagger that you're able to bring to broadcast. But I'm doing great today. Proving Grounds, always excited to do Proving Grounds.
Oh, of course, bro. It's like, yet again, I mean, dare I say, we do have a couple of banger matchups coming at you in just a little bit, but don't tell nobody, because I believe I want them to be in for a surprise. Come on, bro. It's like this.
Don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anyone, because I want
everyone to watch.
Okay, yes, but like, don't you love surprises? Because yesterday, look, the games personally to me were a little bit of a surprise, but also not. You know, TLA versus C9AM and the Dig A versus Fly A, 2 O's across the board. But Dean, like I have to say, the dominance that we see that are coming out for some of the top seeds at Academy has definitely been flowing through the entire day of games.
I think the setup that we have now for TLA versus Dignitas is awesome, because Dignitas has been just completely obliterating everyone that they've played against, and TLA is coming in as the #1 seed. So that's going to be an awesome game. Today, we get to cover, obviously, 100 Thieves versus EGA. Tomorrow, we get to see our clash of our two teams that have made it this far so far as amateur teams here, with Wildcard Red up against the side of Resolve. So this top bracket still got plenty of competition between everybody. Should be an exciting one, especially, again, those top two teams, man. FlyQuest, Team Liquid, that is a date that nobody was going to want to miss.
Oh, no, not at all. That's not going to be a match to watch, but we do have more matches to watch today as well as the day goes on, right? We'll be seeing Supernova versus AoE, some more fight for survival. And in fact, the winner of this will, of course, face the loser of another amateur team. So more amateur or semi-pro and semi-pro matchups going on throughout the entire week. Yet again, Academy, semi-pro clashing back and forth is exactly why we're here in Proving Grounds, to prove that, you know, these teams, I should say, are a lot closer in disparity than people might think. And across the board, it's fantastic games and really solid prospects for everyone to see.
Obviously, upset that like 100 Thieves next got put out, but it did open up the door for C9 Civil War, which should be a blast of a matchup. And then, of course, IMTA versus FlyQuest, I believe, is that other matchup that we were able to see right there, as those two teams have been considered after the loss from FlyQuest just the other day. The games don't get any worse. They significantly improve every time we pass another round. As we drop more and more teams and we get more and more upset about the fact that some of these teams have left, we get that rekindling of like teams that just get better and better, rivalries that adapt over the course of the tournament. I'm sure plenty of teams want to swing back at some of the teams that beat them earlier on.
Oh, 100%, right? And if we can see some of those runbacks too, that's what makes it even more exciting, because we see that, you know, teams have learned from the previous losses, they've adapted, they move forward, and even then, if they're still able to lose, then that does hurt a little bit more. But speaking of runbacks though today, Dean, like we already mentioned already, this is a runback between EGA and 100 Thieves for our first matchup of the night.
It's a rehash only because not only do we have an entire Academy split where the two of them played a number of times, but in our previous Proving Grounds, these were two of the teams that made it very deep runs into the sides of the tournament. I believe it was 100 Thieves that was able to come away with a win over top, with a slightly different roster, obviously, with some of the substitutes that have come in because of the World's participants. But man, you know the EGA, they're coming out here. They want revenge for previous Proving Grounds. They have a chance to put down this team while they have these substitutes in, while their iron is hot right here and right now. So this should be an exciting little series we have on our hands today.
And like, especially with the roster of EGA too, like mainly with the guys that have come in, they haven't even been playing with them for far too long, but I do have to say they do look excellent, you know, talking about Gamsu, right? And talking about Gamsu and such, and also of course Chad, but we can get into that a little bit later on. Moving down into the overall rosters, though, I do want to focus in our main matchup of the night, which is going to be the mid matchup between Jojo Pyun and Ryoma.
We know both of these teams have quite a bit to play for in terms of like stylistic difference between them. We can refer to what is like EGA love to play into their top side. They're great at doing so as well. And with 100 Thieves having these substitutes in jungle and top lane, their bottom side is going to pull a bunch of focus. So the attention that's going to be put on mid lane is twofold, because it's both a combination of, you know, what are these mid laners' impacts going to look like when it comes to jungle, mid, that kind of priority that you're going to pull from the other. And then they're both also very well versed in being able to carry games. Everybody understands who Ryoma is, having played previously for 100 Thieves on the LCS roster, and Jojo Pyun, who's been capable of taking a lot of different carries and kind of looking the mold of somebody who's able to 1v9 after an entire game's worth of development. And the question is like, okay, how close are they able to kind of compete if they're up carry to carry? And then, Jojo Pune also has this other angle of being able to support Tomio. Tomio stepped in from the AM roster from EGP just a few weeks ago. This is the first full tournament that he's going to be playing with the likes of the team, and we've seen him be capable of supporting Tomio. So that kind of clash of styles combined with the abilities of our two mid laners should be an exciting one today.
Yeah, exactly too, and what we've seen on Tomio too as well is like he's become also a very hyper aggressive jungler too. He knows what he wants in terms of gameplay when he goes into it, and like you mentioned, like both these junglers being able to support the mid laners is definitely going to be an overall focus that we should pay attention to. But staying on the top side a little bit, right, out of the matchup that, and especially one player that we want to take a look on the EG side is going to be Tony Top, and not only does his name reflect his role, but he's not too shabby in that role either.
Yeah, Tony Top is not a reflection of his role, but instead his position in that role, because he is one of the best that we've got inside of Academy. In terms of pure laning, in terms of side laning, especially as the game goes on, he is almost unmatched in terms of other competition. You think about the champion pool he's established himself on. You think of Fiora, you think of Camille, you think of especially the Jax, which was his solo queue hero. He was amazing at it. And now his competition today, Gamsu, tends to play more of those tanky champions. This is an opportunity Tony Top has to pull some resources, or more specifically, really take that one-on-one matchup against Gamsu and secure a significant lead for his team.
And speaking of which, we'll see what kind of resources he is able to pull as of right now, as we are into draft tier D between EGA and Heart of Thieves for game numero uno, though. And right off the board, like we see, the Aphelios is taken off too, along with the Ziggs. So bot lane focus coming out of both of these teams. We're talking a little bit about, Team Luke and also Luger too, especially on Heart of Thieves side, has been a fantastic player, one of the best ADCs in the tournament. So no surprises there, though. But the Graves ban is a lot of fun, especially because we saw Chad on it just recently as well.
Yeah, big thing is like Luger has got to pull a bunch of the attention. Not only is Ryoma one of the more veteran players here on the side of 100 Thieves Academy, but Luger kind of takes up that mantle as well of being somebody who's capable of putting the team on his back. And again, with this top side having been substituted, nothing against Chad or Gamsu, they're both fantastic players. But a lot of that responsibility, I think, does fall a bit more to Ryoma Luger, and so that's why you're seeing a bit of pressure put onto that with the Aphelios ban. And like you said, Graves taken away from Chad, one of his better. We're kicking things off immediately. The Lee Sin immediately for the likes of Tomio, wanting to get that out of Chad's hands to make sure he doesn't have that impact across the map. And Luger looking towards the Varus. This has been probably his most played champion over the course of the entirety of the splits. One of the more favorite champions of most players here inside of the tournament.
There's not only been like just a parity pick in terms of all drafts and ADC picks for many different Academy teams, right? It makes sense. He's super strong and he can be flexible in terms of his builds, though. But on the other end, speaking of oppressive and priority picks, Chad bringing up the Viego this early on to take it into the Lee Sin, although he's not as strong early, but the snowball potential already coming out for the side of 100 Thieves is going up a little bit of an exponent, though. But the response on the other end will be the Ashe pick for Team Luke, along with the Thresh. So two big power picks. So I'm liking the setup already from EGA.
Yeah, EGA wanting to deny the combination of the Varus Thresh, which is one of the more picked kind of combos. And then you got Team Luke. Typically, he would be on something like the Ziggs. I think that's one of his more played. Tristan is the other one that comes to mind. When you're looking across from the Varus and the kind of utility it can bring, Ashe is such a kind of a reasonable option when it comes to both being able to engage from even a further range than what the Varus is capable. Hawkshot being such a useful tool for the jungle v jungle matchup, especially now that Chad said, okay, I'm going to put my foot down. We're playing Viego into Lee Sin, something that eventually will be able to take that combat and win it for himself with all of those auto cancels.
I consider Leona being the final lock in here for 100 Thieves. So already we see the first three main picks locked out for both of these teams, though jungle and bot lane. Two main focuses that we were talking about just a little bit before. For EG especially, we see Tomio, who was a fantastic carry, and for 100 Thieves, giving, make sure to give Luger as many resources as possible. But that mid matchup that we highlighted before is likely going to be the next focus in terms of the bans, right? Azir taken away, along with Jojo Pune Silas, one of his favorite pocket picks, and the TF as well. EG, I would expect one more mid lane ban too, just to kind of stifle Ryoma's pick, considering the Azir is already gone.
So with the number of mid lane bans here, it the question pops into my mind is like, if you blind pick Gamsu, Tony Top will get a counter pick into that matchup, which isn't necessarily something you want. So I'm curious if 100 Thieves is actually going to go for mid lane here and just kind of pick something as wide ranging as they can. Hence the reason that EG really went for kind of blind pickable, more straightforward mid laners like Azir Syndra, and Orianna fits that mold as well. It fits in with both the combination of like Leona to be able to set up the shockwave, things like that, as well as having just like AoE, good wave clear, things like that. It's a well-rounded champion to throw in. There are things that you could play into it specifically to try to punish that, and that's what Jojo Pugh now has to come up with, is like, do you want to match something like the Orianna, or do you go for something else? Even better, now Tony Top has to blind pick. Does he go for the Kennen? And we've seen it exactly one time inside of Academy playoffs, and he went crazy on that pick.
And now we see it 2 times with it being locked in here for him. So this should be a little bit interesting. Now 100 Thieves have a little more flexibility, and at least to try to take maybe a range matchup for the side of Gamsu too, just so if he's at least if he's on a tank, you know, he's not just poked out of lane and just completely taken off the board though. But okay, I'm gonna wait for the hover. I know this is not real, and there we go. Yep, this is gonna be the Lucian mid. Actually, wait, hear me out here, team. This could be a potential flex. I think this, you know what? No, never mind. Because like if we're looking at the entire composition, right, Lee Sin's probably gonna go down to the jungle, like, and we're probably gonna see Lucian mid. And considering the buffs going out to him solo, and Lucian hasn't been the greatest, but this is what we expected out of Gamsu, that Ornn pick.
They take this Lucian. It obviously, like you said, isn't quite as strong as it was once before, but it still has the ability to pull mid priority, which is the main thing, especially into control mages like the Orianna to begin with. And then you've got Tomio, who's on something very aggressive. It's going to beat out the Viego to begin with as that blind pick jungler that you take at B1. Eventually, that like one-on-one matchup does eventually flip to the side of the Viego, but hopefully the idea for EG is, okay, we've got this like jungle matchup we can play into with our mid priority on Jojo Pion, and we've got Tony Top in the top lane on something that he can carry with in terms of AP into a matchup that isn't particularly punishing in the likes of the Ornn. EGA, again, they can play towards their top side, kind of leave their bottom side, use that Ashe Hawk shot for support, maybe move Mystiques around a little bit, try to support that kind of play style, where eventually it's going to be mostly Jojo Pion, Tony Top playing into Tomio, trying to wrestle away portions of the map from 100 Thieves.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting too, just how the Hawk shot is used, especially if you look at a little bit of early pathing, because, you know, we were talking to Chad before, you know, Chad definitely wants to focus in onto Tomio. He wants to make sure he shuts down all the carry potential, especially him on the Lee Sin brings. He's a fantastic Lee Sin player and definitely has the opportunity to be able to accelerate EG's game plan across the board, because EG, we know, he likes to fight a lot as well, and that's how they kind of bridge the gaps with the early game. Go for 2v2s, 3v3s, but one thing I'm going to be interested in is like, Gamsu right now has a pretty neutralizing lane up against Tony Top, because the Ornn, although will get poked out early, like, it's not as though Tony Top can just like roam as he wishes, because Ornn can get decently tanky and can sustain all the damage. So I'll be looking a lot at how Mystiques can roll, like you mentioned, and how 100 Thieves looks to match them.
100 Thieves in this one have set themselves up for like a game plan that is really contingent on just pure 5-on-5 team fighting. I think that does take some of the pressure off of Gamsu and Chad, being the 2 newer members on the likes of the team. Chad can focus a lot more, I think, on trying to farm in this one or slowing down Tomio's effects across the lane. Whereas Gamsu, again, all he really has to do is kind of chill, make sure that Tony Top doesn't go crazy inside of the laning phase, and just like kind of wait and sit and do as he pleases in that top side. And then they're going to rely on Ryoma, who is this big team fighting factor, alongside like Luger, who has this carry, Chad, who's going to be able to have damage, and most importantly, Ornn has an ultimate that goes really insane when it comes from like range to be able to hit multiple targets, set up this massive team fight from the side of 100 Thieves. I feel like it's up to EGA to do a bit more, or at least set themselves off to a good foot to begin with this Lee Sin, with this Lucian combination, so that they can try to push down 100 Thieves Academy, or at least force them into bad situations for some of these fights.
Yeah, because on the other end, like you mentioned for 100 Thieves, alongside Ornn's ultimate, they can respond quite well in everything that EG brings out. Because after EG have gone a little bit early on, right? Let's say Tony Top puts out Slicing Maelstrom, Lamatomio going in, gets the kick off with the Ashe Arrow gone. Then now it's up to 100 Thieves, so like immediately clean up, because Gamsu can get the ultimate, Ryoma with the shockwave, and then boom, being able to lock down any single target that steps forward a little bit too much. As this is kind of what we expected at JoJo, right? If you're looking at any sort of Lucian matchup up against Syndra, up against Orianna, early prio is a must.
And I love this adaptation that kind of came about. I haven't gotten the chance to talk about it in game very much, but it's the Airy that was actually the selection to try to harass in that lane. Nice little E from Mystiques to deny that play from Boom. This matchup is pretty skill intensive. If you're able to deny that E, that's a really good way to kind of take pressure in the early laning phase. But again, for Lucian, in recency especially, taking this Airy and going for a little bit more lethality, especially Eclipse, usually accompanies something like this, you can do some significant work when it comes to just hitting with like a single Q or a single W, things like that inside of the laning phase against some of these mages that do a better job of zoning you. Things like Syndra are the really big ones, but Orianna kind of fits into that mold as well, especially when she's running Mage. So here, JoJo goes for the immediate damage, saying if I press Q on you, you are going to take that and the area damage, and the lethality hopefully does something. Now this is the patch where Crit Lucian got scaled, the ultimate shots, things like that, so eventually that goes a lot harder, but it is possible that we do just end up seeing that because of this Airy selection that JoJo's gone for.
Because then right now, looking at both junglers are actually pathing towards the bot side, but EGA do currently have the overall bot side priority. Crab is up in just a couple of seconds. That was a nasty shot. A big out for JoJo though, but they both should converge around mid. JoJo's very far forward, and yeah, Chad's right there looking to possibly punish him, but we see Tomio's also just hovering around to see if he could possibly deny that. Yep, and he passes on through, so Chad knows that Tomio's pathing towards top, so they'll just trade crabs.
They will. And that's going to mean, okay, like having seen on the bottom side, they ping out where Chad is at least believed to be. Poop again denied from getting that engage. Now queued as well. Too bad their jungler is the one that went up to the top side of the map, not the bottom side, because they really have punished this Leona so far, as Mystiques has really gotten that timing down for denying that lane. So again, Team Luke, Mystiques probably don't receive the same kind of resources as topside. You can see that, Atomio's already on topside, counter jungling on there, knowing that he's got the push from the Kennen and the Lucian. So they're the ones that have to play a little bit more safe. Good denial already from this combination. This Ashe and this Thresh, difficult to try to play into this early, and especially as the laning phase goes on here for the likes of Luger and Boom.
And again, we are looking back on what we were saying before, right? Because like Luger and Poom have been such an oppressive bot lane in terms of just the entire academy split. Luger especially, like a fantastic player and considered to be really high in AAC. You were mentioned before here too, the 100 Thieves. I feel like to put a lot more resources into this bot side. But looking at Chad right now, he hasn't exactly, like path towards it at all. Instead, right now he's noticing that his camps are gone, and Gamsu middle of the lane as Ryoma takes just chunk after chunk, man. He's being poked down. If he's not careful, like JoJo will just hit 6 and just like likely kill him. As
this is the,
as I say, hook lands the play back too, but Poom responds back in. Just see all that shield's gonna keep Poom alive, but a lot of damage he put in. No will exhaust though, but at least Ignite on their end could possibly confirm the kill.
How did the expectation that we had walking into this one, after EGA saw the Varus, they went immediately for the likes of the Ashe and the Thresh. And Leona not really intended to do like super hard punish this lane. It's almost like 100 Thieves know that this bottom lane is going to be kind of horrible to deal with. And now also mid lane has been just like terrible to deal with the likes of this Orianna into the Lucian matchup that JoJo's been able to exploit so far. Again, 100 Thieves are playing a bit for the later stages. So far, EGA doing a good job punishing some of the advantages that they do have inside of the laning phase, like the poke from the Ashe, the denial of the E from the likes of Boom. Top lane, you also have the Cole start from Tony Top. He knows he's not killing this Ornn, probably, unless Tomio really wants to get aggressive against him. So he's not too worried. He goes for the Conqueror because he knows he's going to be able to stack that relatively easily into a melee champion who doesn't have too much threat into him. He's going to have that Cole stack for the later stages. This is a team that, like EGA, they're comfortable taking some of these immediate advantages. Once some of this, like, kind of mid-game transformation starts to come through, all of a sudden Lucian's going to look really good with, like, a 20 CS advantage. There's going to be nothing converted on bottom side, and Kennen's going to be really big coming into that as well.
Also, mid-play coming out too. We do know Tomio's right around there hovering. Ryoma likely calling for it because he feels that they're coming out of JoJo Pyun, but as of right now, Repel not up either. Like, they can just chill there. He puts out the calling, nice little shockwave and dodge too. So 2 ultimates traded. Now Chad could possibly look for a lane gank, but instead they both just back off.
possible. I like that Mystique's immediately after that back was just mid lane to try to cover this, and that was what allowed Jojo to continue kind of staying around in the laning phase. He played up into the top side where that vision you can see is in both that brush and then the brush above it towards the rafters or closer to the rafter pit over top of that wall. And so he was perfectly safe being there. Now onto the bottom side, he can't quite convert the hook, unfortunately, as Tomio made the kind of cross map play into the bottom side here to maybe look for something aggressive into Luger. But again, EGA feeling perfectly fine in the earlier stages. No aggression from the side of 100 Thieves. They've got these kind of sizable lane advantages to work on. Hopefully they can start to, once these lanes get broken out a little bit, once some of these ultimates come online and fighting begins, they can start to pull something off the map.
And you can just see how much like Team Luke has been denied because he just hit level 5 to where Luger's likely going to hit level 6 quite soon. So already ultimate advantage coming out. So I imagine they might want to deny him that, as Wave will not exactly crash though, but there should be a nice back timer for the backside as they go in for the play. The flash stun 2. They have the ultimate up, then I was going to hit a couple more seconds of first blood without even need for the chains of corruption. Mystique's got to run away, and Luger showing up.
Finally to come out is the aggression that we've been seeing from Poom over and over and over again. He's been pressing E on top of Team Luke, on top of Mystique's the entire laning phase, and every time Mystique's has been able to deny him. This one was no different, except that his positioning was so much further up. You can see, where is Ashe? Ashe is in this pocket trying to get these last couple of minions, and that leaves him in flash Q range here for the likes of Poom. Forces the flash, forces the cleanse, doesn't matter because the damage is there from Luger to be able to punish the rest of this lane. Finally, 100 Thieves are able to find some capitalization of this bottom lane. Like we said, this is where resource is likely to go. The Varus is strong enough early on, especially to punish the likes of the Ashe, and Poom finally able to capitalize on some of this.
And we said, like you mentioned before, we said this is a very hard lane for Team Luke, and it's been denied so much. It's really only a matter of time before Poom decided to capitalize on the aggression. Just how far forward they were. As of right now, that we see EGA trying to make a cross map play. But 100 Thieves wants this though. They forces a flash shot as well. And to Tony Talk on the backside, they will deny the Rift Herald, and Chad will take that away. Well done from 100 Thieves.
They will. 100 Thieves, they're exploiting the fact that, again, their 5-on-5 is very mean. They've got AoE in a couple of different sources. They've got engage from a very long range away, and so they're not afraid to scrap earlier on here as long as they can hit some of those ultimates. In a pure 5-on-5, the strength is there for EGA to kind of pick individual targets off. Now Jojo is the one who's receiving quite a bit of pressure.
Has to flash on the last second. The Boom exerting his dominance even now in the mid lane as well. Going to crash the wave. So I'll be there for the support though, but Jojo now also feeling the pressure of this bot side.
They are. And we talked before everything, again, Chad had talked to us at least a little bit about some of the series, and we knew he kind of got to point to where it is that the aggression on the map was going to go. Playing the Viego, he has to play a little bit more towards this farming style, and so now you can rely on another one of your more veteran-type players, somebody who's been around for a while in Poom, who now has converted on the bottom side play, but also the roaming comes into effect, where he's able to get into the mid lane before Mystique's is able to push out a Jojo gun, who loses his own flash for that. Now, Team Luke's also been punished a lot of times.
He has the ultimate, but the immediate cleanse out to it. It's just a solo kill for Luger. That was just... I feel like that shouldn't have happened for Team Luke, but like, Luger's just so far ahead, it doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah, the combination of lethality, being able to hit a couple of things like that. Once the ultimate's down and the flash and cleanse weren't up, you knew that there was going to be problems. Very minimum, Team Luke is going to get completely shoved out of the lane, and there's not much to be done right here. Tomio hasn't been able to find too much in his lanes to actually operate on so far. And yes, your mid lane is still up 20. Yes, your top lane is up something. But 100 Thieves have been able to find some of these punchbacks, especially on this bottom side and with some of these roams, to be able to make impact across the map. They've jumped out to a significant gold lead. And again, this is the team that's team fight is far easier to operate on, in my opinion, unless you get a really solid flank from McKinnon where he's able to use that slicing maelstrom effectively on multiple targets, or a really amazing kick from the likes of Tomio. They're relying a little bit less on that 5-on-5 team fight.
Exactly, because we know that's more so EGA style, right? They want to go for these 2v2, 3v3 skirmishes. I was about to say that, EGA brings more to the party, but the party, unfortunately, just has not started because it's been a full house every single time, though. Touching back a little bit, onto the point you made about Chad Jungle, right? Talking before, you even mentioned too that you want to try to put resources away from Tomio, but instead, just 2 ultimates traded so far. We said it too, Gamsu, the very tanky boy, he should have no trouble at all going up against Tony Top matchup.
Yeah, not too afraid here. Again, Tony Top didn't lose all that much health on the back of that trade, so it didn't matter all that much. It was just to keep him around, make sure that he wasn't able to back on that timer and find his way back into the top lane, allow Gamsu a free back timer if he wanted right here. Would have been the case. It looks like he's sticking around for whatever reason that might be. Again, I'm waiting for EGA to really break open and start putting some of the pieces together. That's the second in a row that JoJo Pun has been roamed on.
He's a little bit too far forward. Oh, nice dash cut out though, but and there we go. Tomio there for the support, living with a sliver of health on him though, but Ryoma now too, waking up a little bit. He knows he has Chad support, and now they're punishing JoJo.
Twice in a row now, we've been able to see Ryoma kind of catch this shockwave onto JoJo as somebody is coming into the lane and really threaten him. If it weren't for that E being able to dodge the flash W coming out from the likes of Chad, that would have been an execute on the spot onto JoJo. So good on him to outplay that. And then Tomio coming in to cover his lane. Hasn't been able to find a gank, but at minimum was able to deny that one. Gold is even, but this opens up bottom side. There is no roam from JoJo because Tomio wasn't there because they had him spotted. So the Retro gets to drop for 2 free plates on bottom side.
Yes, sir, it does too. And we see just a little bit off on the other end, though. Ryoma also almost got caught on a back timer too, so he was right in the bush. So JoJo almost stopped that. It could have been a little bit of a skirmish alongside Tomio, but going back a little bit, like we're talking about, you know, like we were saying that Chad wanted to go up against Tomio. He wanted to deny him resources, but he also wanted to put a lot of his focus into JoJo. He wanted to make sure that Tomio could not scale up by consistently making sure that JoJo has a bad time playing League of Legends. And they've been doing that. We've seen how often Tomio has just had to hover the mid lane to make sure that JoJo just doesn't die, because he's a very confident player. And now Ryoma too might be in a little bit of trouble, confident in himself. Nice little flash hit back with a ward. And there's the calling flash shot too from Ryoma, but it should be perfectly fine.
Try a couple of things right there. The flash burn from Tomio, but at least able to push Ryoma a little bit out of the laning phase. Comes up for a couple more minions. Probably has to back off out of fear of the dive coming through from this team as it opens up a couple of turret plates. The biggest thing, though, again, 100 Thieves has still been playing into what is a bottom side kind of win condition. Yes, you got Ryoma down 30 CS, but as long as the shockwave is there, the team fight's going to be around. And the best part about this is when you look at all of EGA, like, you got ranged champions, sure. You don't have that much like active range to be able to start a fight with. It's going to require, again, Tony Top maybe TPing and going very fast, or Teleport like flashing on top of multiple members. Tomio, like you said, just like getting a kickoff or like an Ash Arrow engaging into a member that the defense comes to. Luger, with this lethality Varus, gets to interact and put damage into this team so much easier in this mid game that for EGA, they have to find very definitive kind of moments to be able to strike in, because otherwise, if you take Q, E, things like that from the likes of Luger, you tank a shockwave, all of a sudden your health bars are too low to be able to capitalize on some of these CS advantages you've had. Even though the gold isn't massively in favor of 100 Thieves, it feels, again, easier to not only team fight, but even just like the poke alone from Luger, especially with him being up so much gold right now, is going to be near impossible to deal with.
So it will be interesting to see how they actually play out these 5v5s, because like you mentioned, right, there's such strong poke from 100 Thieves. We'll have to see what kind of setup EGA eventually does have, especially on the back of mistakes, because if we're looking at vision across the board, top side up with the focus too, because you know second Rift Turtle is coming on up, and as it crashes that wave, this is just such an easy take for them, right? Tony Top is bottom. He has a TP if they want to go for this play, but so does Gamsu, and I'm seeing no real good flank ward. So they might, instead, they're just rotating off of this. You see Team Luke and Mystiques. They might want to crash the wave here again, dude.
They didn't see Ashe show up the top lane, and so they knew that there was a possibility of that going there. Since Kennon's bot, you know, either Ashe is in mid, going to top, or in the jungle somewhere. They must have had it timed properly. Yeah. And also, they didn't do much kind of foresight to kind of clean out the river. Poom still has yet to like fix out the 2 wards that are right there. So right there's one, the other one sitting in that pixel brush right there. If they're able to catch that one, which they do right now, all of a sudden things are a lot easier to try. So instead of forcing onto this immediately, giving up the possibility of Team Luke showing up, a TP from Kennen ending up in a 5-on-5 that maybe they're not quite ready for because Ornn is still on bottom side and you need your engage there ahead of time. Instead, they're a little bit more patient. They play back. Because of this, it does open up EGA maybe to look into this river for more setup. You see the back had come through from Poom. Maybe they can convert here if Team Luke is able to find a nice arrow into the likes of Ryoma or Chad, but it seems like they're far enough back that that's not going to be too much of a problem. So this is now 2 waves now that Luger's been able to shove into topside, deny from Team Luke, furthering this advantage that he's got over top of everybody else.
Chad wants this though. Tommy's on the backside, the flash in, knocked up. He still managed to drag it instead. Yeah, so well done from him. And he gets out. Meanwhile, the solo kill from JoJo onto Luger. Okay, JoJo now waking up as well. Let's go 2 dragons for EGA.
Okay, Luger shifted from top into mid just to cover that wave because he had shoved in top lane already. And because everybody was at Dragon, they were like, okay, we're going to be able to get this. Not only did they not get Tomio, they don't get the Dragon, and they lose one. They are going to be able to find something here, maybe on a Tony top.
Tony top slicing Mails from staying alive flash and gets the stun. And the ball will round him up back to the spawn.
All right. Able to catch at least somebody on the back of this. Again, this is not an Eclipse solution either. This did end up being Gale Force, understandable because of the crit changes that had come through. He spots Varus coming in. This is mildly disrespectful. He goes for the Chains of Corruption that gives away his position. I love that he dips behind the wall to break vision, then goes for the ultimate. Once he's secured enough damage, is able to trick him with a bit of the Gale Force that ends up coming through and the E from coming out. So that mobility difficult to kind of gauge. That right there was Luger saying, all right, maybe I can find a pick. Maybe I can force out Jojo from this mid lane. Instead, he's able to convert on that. That's kind of the individual prowess of him showing up in spades right there.
We're saying that Jojo Bin has just been such, like, been honestly, like, been the focus for a lot of the early game too. We've seen how much focus he's gotten and how much Ryoma and Chad have just made sure that he could not, like, absolutely pop off. Like, even in terms of farm, although he's a little bit ahead, he hasn't been getting every opportunities to make his presence known on any other lane. But this right here definitely has opened him up to a lot more opportunities. He has also the item and a half, so they're definitely gonna be feeling the pressure if they go for more of these skirmishes than EGA. I've also not with this, like, even at the gold a little bit more too, although farm advantages still maintained in their favor. Now they're now opening up the possibility for this Dragon win con too.
Nice. Yeah, we're now seeing the possibility here. Rift Herald ended up getting taken from EGA after all that setup that had gone through on the top side. So despite Tomio, who has not really had any kill participation, not much interaction with the rest of his map at the moment, he's actually done quite an impressive job controlling some of the neutral objectives here on the back half of the game. Have both Dragons and one of the Rift Heralds and gold being thrown into the likes of Jojo Bin's pocket to be able to kind of operate on. So this Lucian ended up being this condition for them to really start winning the game. Usually it's Lucian that uses this mid priority and pushes into the jungle, pushes into lanes, and is able to really skirmish super hard. But here, it seems like they have played more to the defense of the Lucian to make sure that he, in this mid game, is going to be this kind of force to be reckoned with. And you can see he's arrived at nearly that point. Sorelda's Grudge nearly done. You have the Gale Force that's completed. Yep. Extremely, very well fed. Lots of gold on the likes of your Lucian. You love the position that you're going to be in there. If you can combine that with, like, the Ash Arrow, again, for pick, a Thresh Hook, something like that, or even Tony Top finding a nice slicing Maelstrom, that damage is going to come in handy very easily.
Look for a pick of the mid side of the Luger yet again. A immobile ADC, no flash up, and no Assy plans was just not barely up to. So, what are we able to get out of that? But Tomio hovering around them. As I look towards top side, Tomio gets caught out though, but Ward hops away. Tony Top wants this, but just can't get in range with the Maelstrom.
Not quite. Just going to back away from that situation. They were trying to find a conversion onto Ryoma there, but unfortunately not able to because of the cover from Chad. That's going to prevent that. Maybe caught them in the act right there. Both of them just kind of walk away from that situation, none the wiser of what the other one's plan ended up being, as they both just kind of leave and nothing gets accomplished from either side.
I was going to say, I like this from Tony Top because he's going Void Staff second to get more Magic Pen instead of the Zanya, so he can just at least poke Gamsu out of the lane. I like this a lot.
There's not much magic resist built either, but he's anticipating some is going to get built here. You do see at least the one no magic mantle. You got like the locket that comes in, so wanting to make sure to shred some of that resistance that's going to come in is going to be helpful for the pure damage output of what Tony Top's going to be able to do. And if he's hitting non-magic resist targets, obviously he's basically be doing true damage. So Luger has to be at least a little afraid of what's going to happen in that circumstance right there.
Absolutely terrifying, especially with any sort of lightning landing on you as an immobile ADC. Luger is thinking, well, lightning might strike twice here today, and I do not want to feel the effects of that. Only when that happens is when Victor goes upon you, and we know what happens when Victor faces an ADC. All right.
We see, I want to note at least that 100 Thieves have done a great job securing side lane towers, and they've also done a good job kind of with what they've done with their side lane towers being taken off the map, just constantly pushing into the jungle, putting down wards, things like that. And they've now actually even been able to convert it into a mid tower. They shoved a bunch on bottom side, took that bottom side quadrant control, and then they shift it up to make sure that Luger's able to take that freely. They trade it for top tower for the cannon, but again, this entire outer ring of towers is now down for the side of EG in exchange for just like the one mid tower that still stands for 100 Thieves. space, so they should be able to use their vision more effectively. When you've got the Ornn on your team, I think that's extremely valuable. You can find some of these shallow area fights around the entrances to the river from EG's side that you can start a fight in instead of having to wait for them to come into the river or into your side of the map instead. You can start that engage much faster when you know what's happening.
Tony Top caught out the lot of damage put down.
Goodness.
Oh, the shockwave gets the red buff instead, and he does just barely manage to get out so far. But team look on the other end. Taking a lot of damage so far. There's the calling too. A lot of low health bars across the board though. Luger and Ryoma looking a little bit of more poke damage, and there we go. Jojo goes down as they can't get to find the second knockup on the Thieves, and they managed to get one out of this, and the dragon.
Super close right here, trying for the side of EG to convert on this, but 100 Thieves do an amazing job focusing down the Lucian as soon as he enters the fight. Multiple members got low right there, and again, the conservation of the dragon was also big because it does slow down the stacking from the side of the EGA, but the biggest thing about this is this fight was very close to flipping because of the damage that has come out from that Lucian, very nearly killing both Luger and Ryoma, but thankfully Chad was able to arrive fast enough. The CC of Boom stalled that out, and Tomio having to get completely out of dodge as fast as possible. He couldn't stall long enough for Tony Top to end up showing up in that situation.
As I believe it will be a Baron take getting it for EJ off of that setup. They're trying to trade back and forth, but the 5v5 might be in exactly what we're looking for so far right now. Like, not many major ultimates not up, like Shockwave not up, along with Ornhorn not up either. So it's a good time to take it, but instead 100 Thieves will just show their faces and force them off as they push in mid.
Little afraid. Again, the Shockwave is pretty much the only ultimate. They had Chains of Corruption as well. So EG was like, okay, we still have Slicing Maelstrom, we still have Dragon Kick, we have the Calling back up. Maybe we have an opportunity to pressure for this. If somebody pokes their head in, we can maybe go for a pick or something like that. But instead, they pull off of this, which opens up 100 Thieves to take this mid-inner tower, which is, again, the more of these towers they're pulling off, the easier it is to get in vision. TP from the likes of Ryoma to stall out, make sure that, like, Jojo isn't able to punish as hard. The entire team is heading up there right now to try to punish him. Oh, Ryoma!
He takes the calling to the
He's got to die to the tower.
And he also has to go up to the top side too. No TP down. Chad here. And just has to try to get him. What move can Jojo use? No moves at all. He's going to likely use his die move. And there we go. A free kill given over to Chad.
Now, I will say, again, this is really good from Jojo Pen. He cannot get out of that situation. They watch them rotate out of mid lane, and they're like, okay, you are done for. So he's just like, okay, I'm going to go for Broke, I'm going to go for Ryoma. Ryoma can't hit the Shockwave, so he's able to just run them down with pulling. The one kind of situation, you don't have to give a kill to Chad if you just execute. If you walk under the tower and it hits you 3 times, you just die. And yes, you are off the map, but you are already going to be off the map one way or another because you are stuck between a rock and a hard place. So at least you could at least deny that gold going over to the side of 100 Thieves, but still good on him to find something off the back of that play. Unfortunately, no tower response since you weren't able to force it hard enough from EGA in the mid lane. So it does end up being mid-inner tower in exchange for that 1-for-1. Which again, EGA is not really that happy taking.
And consider with the replay we see so far, this should be pretty clear cut and dry though. With the blue ward, they spot him out, but Jojo could have actually red wave, but he's like, wait, I killed this guy. What am I doing? And yep, that's his free, but little did he know there was a response to coming in, and maybe he decides to take it because at least a kill in his pocket looks better than anybody else's. Does he manage to get the wave right? Oh, he got too far.
He gets most of it, yeah. He gets almost all of it. I like that twice in a row he went for that side rush, being like, okay, I can break vision. The first time the TP came in, he's like, oh man, she's gonna know. And then the second time he was just like, ah man, he saw me before he's able to get in. And because of that, like, that's what cost him at least a little bit in that situation. Now, 100 Thieves claim control of the river, and again, with double mid tower down, you can push this mid wave so far. And again, if you're trying to approach that Baron buff from your own jungle, it's so easy for Gamsu to just press his ultimate button and funnel everybody into a small space that Ornn ultimate is going to do a bunch of work into. So here, EG do have to be extremely careful. Because again, if they aren't able to contest mid wave, if they aren't able to keep this wave up, they have to make sure they've got a very clear-cut path towards the Baron buff in terms of wards, and especially in the river itself to make sure they know when Gamsu is going to be pulling that trigger.
Exactly, yeah, because we were speaking a lot before about the 5v5 with the draft and how exactly what we're going to see, although we haven't gotten exactly a chance to be able to witness it in terms of the game, but like you were mentioning, the setup here is going to be very, very crucial. So how Mystiques and Poom are able to lay down the vision, because for EGA, they want open and disguise, and for 100 Thieves, they will lock down corners. Even with the Chains of Corruption too, once you get one, you can just go ahead and chain that into the other, quote unquote. But I'd be looking for something here, though, Dean. Boom is a little bit far forward. Hook misses, though, as he continues to push the mid wave, and a solid wave landing onto Gamsu, who's not going to implement like a ton, though, but dragging up in 10 seconds.
I like that 100 Thieves also. They've gotten to this point now where this team fight is kind of well put together. Ryoma is really strong on the likes of the Orianna on this like 3-item, almost into the 3-item territory. But importantly, the two newest additions to this roster in Gamsu and also in Chad have pretty important roles. Gamsu being that initiator and Chad being kind of this massive damage dealer that they were able to get out of the early game. This Viego, now sitting on almost 2 completed items, able to contest in a lot of fights, has been a big damage dealer and being able to put down especially Jojo Pun in a lot of situations. Now getting the dragon as the setup comes through means they don't have to expend that much.
I mean, you get that one, the Puma is gone. They get the dragon though so far. Ryoma taking a lot of damage too. Caught up in the middle, can't get any more. That's already 2 for EGA as it goes towards the Baron Dean.
They still have the multiple ultimates to actually work with here. Between the Ornn and the Varus, they have to put in work from a very far distance. Notice Tony Top's positioning, though. He's trying to sneak around back, trying to find a flank. If he's able to get one onto the 2 carries right there over the wall, this is going to be huge for the side of EGA to convert this game back in their favor.
Yeah, 2 seasons, the long poke down, put already. There's the Ornn Horn. He's not coming to 1. He gets on 2. Oh my god, that's so big. He immediately besides the Maelstrom for Tony Top. He's exhausted. He can't do damage. He's gone. A triple kill for Luger. They reset the Baron, and they're gonna take it into their own hands. What a huge play coming out of 100 Thieves.
Oh my goodness, that was about as close as the situation could have gotten right there. They grab the dragon, they lose 2 members in 100 Thieves. They're in a like dire straits. They're like, okay, we're gonna lose the Baron right here. They wait. They're very patient with this in-game. They understand that Tony Top is waiting around the edge, and you saw a lot of that was off the back of Luger. The chains of corruption into the arrow denied Tomio from sustaining and staying in that fight whatsoever. Also would have had the dragon kit potentially available to be able to continue that fight. Not only that, but then again, the denial of Tony Top from anything on the back line, and then of course, Chad Jungle, the new jungler stepping in for Kenvi. Big shoes to fill, popping off on this Viego in the back half of this game, has been doing a lot of heavy lifting, and right there on display once again.
We said it before, you know, Chad came into this game, into PG, brand new here, dude, like you've been here and again. Last series he mentioned he was super nervous, but now picking up the carry pants, having huge plays like that, and on the back of Luger right from the beginning. We saw it, like Luger getting like the kills 2v2, exerting that entire pressure onto Jojo, and now too up against Tony Top, he's just dead. Oh, they land the Zenith Blade, and as he gets knocked up and taken out, 100 Thieves are going to close out game number 1 with Baron and the base in front of them.
And 100 Thieves is using this range advantage that they've had in the last couple of minutes to absolute fun. The combination of Gamsu's ultimate, the combination of Luger with his ultimate and his Q make it so difficult to try to like make this very snappy engage when health bars start to get low. Yeah. This is maybe one last chance here for the side of EGA to look for something, but down Tony Top means they're missing their biggest team fighting ultimate significantly here.
Consider where they're at, though. They know the wave is coming in, but with all the wave clear they have on their hand, they don't want to take another 5v5. They want to give away this huge lead they've already had built up for themselves, about 6k gold that they have in front. But looking at this play yet again here, Dean, like you see just a setup from both sides looks so good.
Ooh, okay, so the kick was used and the arrow was used, which are 2 of your main pick tools to actually come in, and that was one of the big options for why. I'm curious how this took so long. You have double marksman and also Lee Sin to work with. I was curious what it was that they were doing this entire time. Chad was kind of behind the pit waiting for what would be like a 50-50 smite fight, something like that. I think right there, Tony Top and the rest of EGA maybe should have committed to a fight. I don't know what the call was at that specific timing. And Tomio standing behind this Baron actually I think was problematic. He takes bonus damage when that happens. Chains of corruption and the arrow were enough to bring him down.
But still looks like what more damage he might be able to take, though. So far we see, yeah, he's just gone. Mystiques is dead, unfortunately, caught up in the middle. All that knockup can take him back to his own shadow realm, and they can continue to push more and more of the leads. There's that pulse we were talking before here, Dean. Nice shockwave, goodbye Zenith Blade, and it doesn't even matter that he got a second of freedom. 100 Thieves looking to close out the game. They have one more wave, looking to get more towers and more inhibs too in their back pocket. You look at actually, but look at Tomio too, just trying to like deny more of the wave, but he knows he has to be beside his team as they're just bleeding them dry.
They are. 100 Thieves now take 2 inhibitors off the map. They're leaving EGA up. I don't know that forcing here is a great decision, and I think I agree with 100 Thieves saying, okay, we take 2 inhibitors, now your top and your mid or your bottom lanes are just constantly going to be shoved in. We're okay playing this out to a little bit of a later state, just because they've got 2 Mountain Drakes. They're probably not going to lose a third with the pushing bottom lane unless EGA are really able to shove that bot lane out quite far and contest into the river to go look for vision, which is what Mystique is doing right now. I wonder if 100 Thieves are actually able to catch him fast enough, because if he throws down wards too far, yeah, he's not going to go any further than just the shallow parts of his own jungle out of fear that 100 Thieves catch him. So this should be easy enough access. 100 Thieves are pushing right up mid lane. If no one responds to them, they honestly could just bully down mid inhibitor and even give the dragon away. And if they do respond, they can just turn for dragon immediately, as there's nothing there. And it seems like there's no call that's being caught out from EGA. They're going to back off completely, and they're going to lose mid inhibitor here, or at least mid inhibitor tower.
They're gonna triple inhib them too before like try to close it off though. They have all major ultimates up. They have pretty much all their summoners up, except just like Ignite, but that doesn't necessarily matter. The Princess Air goes out. Nice little stopwatch though, but and hook back is like Maelstrom gets so many, but there's all just so tanky. Boom, Gansu, big boys on the back end. They're able to just walk out. Here comes Ornhorn, knock up onto one. That's a big hit for us right now, but they can't close them out. Playing the beautiful front to back, and this is 5v5 you want to see here, Dean. As right now, Boom goes in yet again, though. Way more lockdowns, way more stuns is what we want to see. As 100 Thieves march into the base with glee, a double kill for the Thresh for Mystique's, but lo and behold, though, they don't need minions to close it out. They just take the towers themselves. 100 Thieves, the game number 1.
And EGA, they like try to call this bluff of 100 Thieves, saying you won't push immediately down mid lane, you aren't going to take anything. And they go for an inhibitor tower, and they just like take the game-winning fight right then and right there. How quick was that conversion? Easy enough for that team. That team fight all too easy. Even after losing Ryoma earlier on inside of that fight, just simply didn't matter because they had enough gold on all of their carries. Big props over to the Varus, who did quite a bit of work, but also Chad by the end of that game, 7 kills. Went kind of crazy in the later portions of the game. Got to give big props to the one of the newer members here on the side of 100 Thieves.
100,000%. You know, we were looking at Chad before, right? Like you're mentioning what his role was going to be in this game. We needed to see more mid-side focus, but Bot didn't even need him, and he did a wonderful job of staving off Tomio, walking into the jungle up against him and said, like, yo, you want to fight? We'll do that with your chest, and let's absolutely get it. Looking at game number 2, though, it's going to be a little tough for your team, but that remains to be seen. We'll cut it to a short break, and when we come back, we'll have more for you all here, right here at Proving Grounds.